why don't you take it away, right?
Yeah, so Meta recently launched Llama 3.1. So for people who don't know, everyone knows about ChatGPT, right? Like a ChatGPT, everyone knows about, where it's owned by OpenAI. You chat with it, and then you get answers, and then you can pay money to get more usage of it. But the thing about OpenAI is they own the model, and basically, if they want to say, I don't want to answer, you have no control over it. Or if they want to shut down your account, you have no control over it. And when you use ChatGPT, they can take your data and use it to train their model. So you basically lose all privacy for using their solution. So what Meta did was they released something called Llama 3.1, which is an open source version of the model. So you could literally buy a GPU server, put it in your room, put the AI model on it, and run it locally. And no one can stop you from using it. No one will take your data. You own that fully. So, there have been a lot of open source models in the past, but what I would say is Llama 3.1, it's the amount of text it can process at once now is equivalent to OpenAI's one. So imagine you get the full power of GPT-4 AI from OpenAI on your own computer now. And that's massive.
Like I have like a MacBook Air M2. Could I run it on that?
You could run it on that. It won't be the fastest. The fastest would be you get a GPU server, like an A4000. So basically you go to a computer store and buy like a gaming GPU basically and put it in your computer. Then you could run it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I that was just like a quick side question. I'm sure you have more to say.
Yeah. So why I think this is more game changing is for the longest time, all the open source models could only take a certain amount of text. So imagine like when they first started, it could take 1 page of text. So when you can only take 1 page of text, it's not very useful, right? Then it got bigger, and then it got like 20 pages of text, and then like 50 pages of text. And for the longest time, we were stuck at 32,000 tokens, which I forgot the number of pages, but it's big, but not big enough, right? And people always revert back to saying, okay, we have to use OpenAI and this stuff, right? But now they can do 120K tokens. Imagine the AI can process 2,500 pages of text. What can the AI not process now? Can you imagine? Like you could literally tell it, read this book and change the character from male to female, give him a new name, change his personality, and it could write the whole book again for you. Can you imagine that? Like this is the power of like having the open source model now. And once you have it, you don't pay anyone. You can do whatever you want with it. No one can stop you. This has been really big news in the AI space. What are you guys' thoughts? How much do you guys use AI in your business and your life?
I unfortunately use ChatGPT like every day, which I'm starting to realize it's like not having it locally is a really big issue that just makes ChatGPT inherently flawed from the get-go. But I've always thought like a local thing would be super useful to have on the computer. But when I Googled it, it just seemed like it was completely impossible for any normal computer to run. But it seems like the barrier to entry has come down quite a bit.
Yeah. So there's different software you can use. So there's different chat softwares like all-in-one LLM where it gives you the interface like ChatGPT. And then there's another program called Llama where basically you just run it. It does a little bit technical, but like it's very easy to like pull any models down and test it on your machine. So you can do a full setup yourself. Well, they'll have to be a programmer.
I think like for the leadership types or like director level types, their biggest concern when OpenAI first came out is that the fact that they don't actually own their data. And that's why during that whole gold rush, during the release of OpenAI's beta release, just like a year and a half-ish ago, everyone was just scrambling on the corporate side because they saw how useful the user interface was to have like a general knowledge chat interface, either personal use or professional use. I initially, when I used it to predominantly on just doing business strategy research or like any type of research that's not within my domain expertise. It is extremely useful for that initial prompt for inspiration on leading you down to the root. That's why now Google also has its own competitive AI, Gemini, because they want to take back that entire search market share. And on the planning side, it was super useful to just create these list documentation planning. And I actually used it initially for my own personal workout plan. If I want a custom workout plan that's customized to me, I'm going to give it all the information I want to. But then the thing that I was afraid was just like putting my name in there. So I just like wrote my name as Billy Bob. But for the corporate enterprise level directors, this is extremely important to have like an open source model, which means they can have their own IT and AI automation experts to kind of create this enterprise level knowledge share system in the form of a chat interface. And this is something that every Fortune 500 companies are trying to figure out. And if you got a better or like a comparable product than OpenAI, this is extremely groundbreaking. If you're a company that has over, I would say like probably like over 3,000 employees across the globe, you would probably want to onboard the entire training system and just have your own internal staff to ask the questions of an internal chat system to just provide you some basic questions that takes the load off of the HR leader's shoulders. Because then when it comes to like just a gray area line of questions, the employee handbook is on the chat system.
Yes, exactly. That's why I always say, I think by this time next year, everyone will have it. And if you don't like have AI in your business doing some of this, right? But I think the key thing with the open source one is, besides the privacy, is you control the cost now. Because right now, if you use OpenAI, they charge you per call. Can you imagine that? It's per usage. Now, if you get, hey, it's this much for the server, then perfect. You know exactly how much it will cost you, right? So that's another feedback.
I've definitely heard of some like Fortune 500 companies using Copilot right now, because it supposedly they're able to isolate the information that goes into it. I'm not really sure exactly how that works though.
Yeah, so basically Copilot, for people who don't know, is basically when you're coding, you add this extension. And basically, as you're coding, the AI is reading what you wrote so far, and it's predicting what should go next. And then it will help you code the rest of the code for that, right? And some developers say it's good, some developers say it's bad. I don't know, personally, I don't use it, and my company doesn't use it, but for other people, it might be useful. I would say is that...
What do you use?
We don't use any of that right now. We just generate more of the code beforehand, and then the developers does the work. But I don't know. I always feel like it's still a little bit weird, because like the AI is helping you code, but it'll make mistakes, or like it doesn't understand what you're thinking. And then in some ways, it might hinder your productivity, right? And then the other thing is a choice thing, right? I don't like choice, where basically you tell the developer you may use this or not. As part of my YouTube channel, I'm trying to do AI news, where it's like, hey, this came out, I'm actually going to test it, show it to you, and it's like, does it work or not? Like, see for yourself, right? It's like, yeah, I think these AI games are really good, but really down right.
As like the person that's like making this decision, I'm just like, I'm not even going to use it, because I think like the smaller business owners, when they're not at scale, they're not actually even thinking too much about that AI automation, depending on the industry that you're dealing with. But then to me, it's just like, it only works within like smaller to medium-sized companies. But then they're at like a level of a risk where like they're actually feeding the AI systems from Microsoft or Google, which like is another weird risk factor. But then at the same time, enterprise level clients would just like be satisfied if they have like a custom solution. So like it's a really limited market, but to me, it's just like, yeah, it just overall makes much more sense. The future is probably going to be open source for these larger Fortune 500 companies that actually need to keep their own data.
You know, just to tie this whole idea together, I think it's hilarious that the virality of the release of Llama, I think, was just all of the memes that instantly came out when that Mark Zuckerberg interview got posted onto YouTube. I don't know which publisher made it, but everybody was just talking about how just like well-dressed he was, and just like, oh yeah, like he's carrying himself differently right now. Everybody's just like talking his beard. Yeah, everybody's loving his beard and everything. That has been like all that I'm hearing about from just like, you know, just like general like friends and family, or just like what they're talking about. They're like, yeah, Zuck looks great.
Yeah, you know why he's doing this? Because basically, for a long time, Facebook has a really bad rep across the whole industry, right? So
yeah, they need it.
What he's trying to do is so he didn't join the AI race at the beginning. So his strategy, if you hear a lot of people, it's called scorch the earth. But basically, it's just like, you are charging money for it, I'll do it for free. That's how long you survive, basically. Every time someone takes a step, he just says, I'll burn a few $1 billion, we'll make it work, and then we'll launch for free. And like, I'll to kill all the AI companies. And he's also trying to change his own image, right? Like, You know, like if you look at his past videos to now, he actually went on more podcasts. Think about how many CEOs go on podcasts. Would you ever see the Google guy on a podcast? No, right? Or Microsoft? Not very likely, right? Like he actively is doing that. He's dressing differently. He's trying to act like a normal, like look like a normal person. So he's trying to be more relatable to like, save the image.
Because everyone thought he might be a lizard, so he had to beat the lizard allegations.
I think like that's actually an interesting strategy for like these tech founders when they release like a new product launch or like a next milestone iteration of their product. Just do something weird while you're announcing it. Either change your look or like dye your hair pink or blue or like green within every series of a version of a product. And then that will just like get you attention through like the memes that people will just like, because people remember your face while you're just that, or like the things you do while you're doing these product launches. They don't actually, if they don't understand the technicalities of these products, they won't actually pay attention to the stories. Just like how people remember juiced up Jeffrey Bezos when he turned from like a nerd-looking dude into like the jacked kind of like security guard looking guy with more recent photos. And I think that it's like a similar case in these things where like, oh yeah, if you're a tech founder, just like make sure to like do something new and interesting in your release videos.
And if you have the high budget, you can do what Apple did and have Tim Cook jump out of a plane and then parachute into the thing and, just make a whole like cinematic thing around it.